Yes, it's true that sleep deprivation is part and parcel of postpartum for everybody, but postpartum insomnia is a little bit different because the baby's not the one keeping you up, you are. Hey, lady. Welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Annemarie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids, ages 10 and under, plus 1 miscarried baby. Here, we see postpartum from birth all the way through baby's first year of life as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 100. Hi, lady. I am so excited to get into tonight's topic with you. I think mostly because I think that it has the potential, the capacity to make a real difference for those who are struggling with postpartum insomnia. I think you can create an actual action plan based on what you're going to hear tonight or today, whatever, and then move forward with that. And that's what I'm most excited to share with you today. Let's start off as we do with free things. If you've been around a minute, you know that free things is mental shorthand, a gentle reminder to myself as well as to you that there is always something to be grateful for. And also that a beautiful, rich, meaningful life is available to all of us, no matter the size of our family or our budget. What a gift free things have been in my life this last week. Several themes that I have noticed. One, suppers. I do a meal plan every week. Usually it depends on what day of the week it starts. But anyway, usually it runs like 7 or 8 days out from whatever the day is that I put it together. And last week we had no less than 4 meals out of the house. We had a Knights of Columbus officer meeting that we were invited to attend that had a meal associated with it for the whole family. And then there was an end of vacation Bible school cookout we went to one night. That was really great. And then James and I went to a rehearsal dinner for a friend of mine who got married, and our kids went over to a Grandma Tribe member's house and enjoyed pizza, I think, over there. And then we went to the wedding and reception the following day, and that was number 4. 4 meals outside the home, 4 meals I didn't have to have. Well, I was going to say I didn't have to wash dishes, but just as you already know, if you've listened to previous episodes, my older children wash the dishes. I do not wash the dishes by and large, but they didn't have to wash dishes, and there was no overseeing of them washing dishes or meal preparation, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that was really great and a gift, and those were all free things last week. So that was one theme of food. And then also, I was able to use a gift card that I was sent, I think, 2.5 months ago to a local coffee shop. Local as in like half an hour away, the largest town that I live closest to. It was a coffee shop there, but it's taken a while, not just because, I just never make time for myself. That's not quite right, but because they close at noon every day. And it just generally speaking works out that if I have free time, it's usually in the afternoons to go and do things by myself, not so much in the mornings. But I was able to go a couple of days ago and just sit. And it wasn't even like I had a ton of things that were objectives I needed to accomplish. I just sat and I ate my sandwich, my breakfast sandwich, and enjoyed my hibiscus berry tea. So much so that I got another one for the ride home. And just did some reading for an article that I have hopes of writing in the future. I haven't committed it to anybody yet, but I have sort of thoughts about it. And I wanted to look at several different sources, which is something I love to do. Like, what does this person say? What does this person say? And just the opportunity to use that gift card. I was very grateful for that. And then the last thing was music. I enjoyed music performed by other people several different times. The first one, 2 of them I cried actually. The first one was on the way to this wedding on Saturday. And my husband and I the whole family was driving in the car, and this country song comes on. I think the artist was Cole Swindell, but it's called Girl Dad. Oh my goodness. Go look up the lyrics. Mercy. It just really tugged at my heart. And then, not an hour and a half later, roughly, I heard the most beautiful rendition of the song Ave Maria at the end of the wedding mass that we attended, as the couple was presenting flowers before the statue of the Blessed Mother. I got chills, and then I just cried. And I was even holding Cecilia, like bouncing her in the back of church because she was cranky, but I was just standing there just crying and with chills, just like, oh my goodness, this is a little taste of what heaven must be like. Yeah, that was just beautiful. And then the last thing was just before mass on Sunday. It struck me, I noticed, and I honest to goodness cannot tell you if this happens every single Sunday or not, bless my heart, and where my brain apparently is or is not. But our organist was playing, I don't know, just instrumental calming music before Mass. And it helped set the focus, I think, to consider the Mass readings and to prepare and settle our hearts for what was coming. Those are the free things. Let's do one small change as well. One small change is a reminder that no matter what feels hard, difficult, even impossible in postpartum today, something is always changing. Your circumstances change. You learn how to handle something. Somebody takes something off your plate. Whatever the thing was that was causing problems just stops. It goes away. It's not even an issue anymore. Something is always changing. And I've had, lots of one small changes lately, but I'll try to keep them brief because in the process of trying to figure out how to help my thyroid, many, many, many small changes have been recommended to me. But one of them is strength training, consistent strength training as opposed to high intensity cardio or aerobic exercise that, really wears you out and tires you out. But strength training is recommended. And so I have been practicing push ups. I can't remember if I said that a couple weeks ago because I've been working on it now for over a month, but I can do 10 push ups in a row on my toes. And that is something I have never been able to do in my entire life previous to this. I'm 36 years old. So push-ups on my toes are one small change, the result of many small changes over time. And then another small change is going to bed before 10 pretty much every night as well to help kind of calm the nervous system down and reset for the next day. And since we are now doing also a daily dose of discomfort, since I said several episodes back that was the one simple daily habit that really changed my postpartum last time around, the daily dose of discomfort that I wanted to highlight this week happened in the last couple of days, and I needed to ask somebody's opinion about something that they knew lots about and I knew very little about. As it turned out, my instinct or my inclination in this particular thing was wrong. It was misguided. And my pride just in that situation, I wanted to prove that, like, no, I know what I'm talking about, and this might be, at least partially right. I did not want to have the humility to sit before this person actually in conversation and just acknowledge, yeah, you know what, you're right. You are more street smart, so to speak, in this situation than I am. And what you are saying is correct, and I don't need to defend myself, and I don't need to mentally put you down, even by excusing to myself, like, well, I know more about so and so than more about such and such than so and so does. Like, I don't need to prove anything to myself or to you, this person. I can just simply sit and recognize that you have knowledge I don't have, an experience that I don't have, and in this situation, I simply need to be humble before and receptive to that reality, rather than trying to somehow defend my pride in a ridiculous way. So that was the daily dose of discomfort that I wanted to bring up this week. And now, without further ado, let's talk about postpartum insomnia. Now, if you go on my website, postpartumonpurpose.com, there's a tab for the podcast and then there's a tab for the blog. The podcast is just exactly as if you were looking at Apple or Spotify or any other podcast player. It's just got the episodes. But if you go to the blog tab, postpartumonpurpose.com, I think it's /my-blog, there's a blog post for every single episode. And in there, I'll put resources to anything that I mentioned in the episode. And then I'll also link to other episodes that are relevant to this one. And so I highly encourage you, particularly for this episode, to go and check out the blog post related to it, because it's going to have resources that will be relevant to you as you go and have a conversation with your healthcare practitioner of choice in order to make a plan for moving forward. But I guess let's start off with just clarifying the difference between sleep deprivation and postpartum insomnia. Maybe it seems obvious, maybe it doesn't. But sleep deprivation comes when you are awake or awakened repeatedly because of baby related needs, or even your own postpartum body's related needs early on, right? Like, yeah, I guess mostly I can think of baby related needs. I was like, well, if your bleeding's excessive, and I'm like, I don't think that's gonna wake you up. Yeah, no. So we'll just say for now, maybe it's related to you, but most likely it's related to your baby's diaper situations or feeding, etc. Okay, sleep deprivation, things that happen to you that you just have to respond to and roll with as best you can. But then there's also postpartum insomnia, and that's where, even as an example, if the baby's sleeping, you're not, or you are waking up before the baby is waking up. So difficulty with sleeping that's not because of the baby's immediate needs, right? Like maybe you're worried about the baby, but you're not having trouble sleeping because you are waking up to feed the baby. The baby's crying. Okay. There's an article that I wrote for Natural Womanhood, and that's what's going to be linked in the show notes for this as well. But talking about perinatal insomnia, and perinatal can just mean during pregnancy, but it can also mean postpartum. Perinatal either during or after the baby's born. During pregnancy all the way through after baby's born. And the statistics are very high actually for for pregnancy insomnia. Like 4 in 10 women experience significant insomnia while they're pregnant. And the reason I'm bringing this up in a conversation about postpartum insomnia is because oftentimes, if a woman struggles with pregnancy insomnia and it doesn't get addressed at all or adequately, it tends to continue during postpartum as well. And there's a small study, it's not new, it's old, like 2015, I think. But there's a small study that found that women who experienced pregnancy insomnia and didn't get treatment experienced some level of symptoms, some of them up to 2 years later. That's why it's important to treat insomnia whenever it comes during pregnancy or postpartum and not just assume that it is going to get better and go away by itself over time. But here's a kind of a tricky thing. If you go to a lot of mainstream, like well-known health websites and look up essentially like, what do I do for pregnancy insomnia or postpartum insomnia? They are not necessarily going to point you to the most evidence-based treatment options. Womp womp, which is frustrating. I don't love that for us. Postpartum moms. But that's why we're having the conversation here, because hear me out on this, please, very clearly. I want you to loop in your healthcare practitioner. If you are experiencing insomnia during postpartum, I want you to loop in your healthcare practitioner. Please do not try to DIY this, okay? Not because of some horrific, horrible thing I'm, going to hold over your head that's going to happen to you. But just here's the deal. If you are experiencing postpartum insomnia, especially on top of sleep deprivation, right? So you are waking up for your baby's needs, but then you're maybe waking up extra times, or you're not able to fall asleep after the baby has gone to sleep, and you lie awake just thinking or worrying or ruminating until, oh my gosh, okay, it's time for the baby to wake up again, and you got almost no sleep or very little sleep or none at all. That's why it matters, because that raises your risk of PMADs, postpartum, or rather perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. All right. So the point here is not to say you have a 27% chance of Nope. Nope. The point is to say that here on this podcast, we encourage your health, not just trying to avoid terrible things, but for you actually to feel your best, to be able to move through postpartum with as much ease as possible. And so for that reason, please don't just DIY this, and please also don't ignore it or just put it on the back burner. No, no, no. Let's get you the best possible postpartum experience that we can. And that includes looping in somebody so that you do not have to diagnose yourself and treat yourself. Let's get you some help with that. So, assuming that you have a healthcare practitioner who you respect, or hopefully, and who respects you and will listen to you, I want you to be aware that they may not have a lot of tools in their pocket necessarily, other than maybe medication as one example, and you might be afraid to go to them. That may be one reason that you're reluctant to go to them, because you may be thinking, well, I'm breastfeeding and I don't want to take medicines that I would not be able to take while breastfeeding or that could impact the baby, and I don't want to stop breastfeeding. Okay. All right. But hear me out, please. You have other treatment options besides medication. So again, I want to belabor this point. I do want to belabor this point. Still go to your practitioner, but here's a conversation I want to equip and empower you to have. You have 3 great options, and they can be done in tandem. It doesn't have to be A or B or C. Okay, it can be A and B and C, But there are 3 treatment options I want you to be bringing to the table, so to speak, exam table, to the conversation with your healthcare practitioner. Number 1, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBT-I. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia has great evidence behind it for helping moms who are experiencing pregnancy-related or postpartum-related insomnia. All right. There are 5 components of it. 1 is sleep hygiene education. They will give you lots more education in the context of therapy, but just as an example, cutting your blue light exposure before bedtime can help to reset and restore your circadian rhythm such that you are not still buzzing mentally when you are trying to go to sleep. So reducing your blue light exposure in the evening. If you've listened to several episodes recently, my phone is on grayscale all of the time, literally round the clock. Well, I mean, it's off. I turn it off when I'm going to go to bed. But yeah, it just, if it's on, it's in grayscale because I use it so much less. But then I'm also not worrying about blue light exposure if I end up using it before bed, because usually I do my Hinge Health app exercises like shortly before bedtime. So blue light exposure is one example of sleep hygiene education. There's also education on stimulus control to associate the bed with sleep, which means that you will not, you will not be sitting in your bed scrolling on your phone. You will not be sitting in your bed on your laptop watching movies or doing work or what have you, like depending on how far along you are in postpartum, right? Now, you might be thinking, if you've listened a long time ago to the episode on the 555 rule, during postpartum, it should say that for the first couple of days, you mostly stay in the bed and then on the bed and then around the bed, like close to your bed. You might be thinking, well, Jiminy Christmas, of course I'm going to be on my phone during that time. Okay, I am I am not talking about the first 15 days postpartum for the most part. I'm talking about beyond that first 2 weeks when you are slowly discerning and deciding and figuring out routines and rhythms for your baby, okay? And then beyond that. But not doing anything in your bed other than maybe reading before bed, sleeping, or having sex. Like that's what your bed is for. A third component of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is time in bed restriction. So that if you're not sleeping, like let's say that, it's 2:00 in the morning and you're just not able to sleep for a while, okay? Well, you lay there for a certain amount of time before just saying, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go do something somewhere else briefly. And I don't mean you're going to go work out at 2:30 in the morning, but I'm going to go maybe read or have a cup of tea or whatever for a short time. And then I'll come back to bed so that my brain associates I'm in bed with sleeping and not with lying awake ruminating. The fourth component of CBTI is relaxation, learning just actually how to physically relax your body. And then the fifth component is cognitive therapy related to unhelpful beliefs around sleep. Things probably like, I can't sleep. I've always had trouble sleeping. I've never been a good sleeper. It's already 4:00 in the morning. Like now I'm just going to feel terrible for the rest of the day, etc. The second component I want you to be aware of that can be very helpful for postpartum insomnia is what's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. And this is all inside of a review that's linked, a literature review or scientific research review that's linked in this Natural Womanhood article that I'm going to include in the show notes. So you can actually just bring that article if you want. You can send it in your messaging portal for your practitioner's office, right? Like if it's an OBGYN, you'd send it through the OBGYN's office. You could send them like, hey, here's the link to the research review. I'm going to be coming into the office. I want to discuss these techniques. I want to discuss treatment options for postpartum insomnia and how we can bring these things to me. So you don't have to remember all of this. Like I'm giving you the information that you can actually physically send to that person, or you could even print it off and bring it into the office, but say like, hey, I want this to be part of my treatment plan, please. Mindfulness-based stress reduction for what's called nocturnal cognitive arousal, which is another way of saying I cannot go to sleep because my brain will not shut off. Okay? Nocturnal cognitive arousal is what we're calling it in the fancy medical literature. But it essentially helps teach you skills for coping with pain and discomfort so that you are stopping your worry tornadoes or your worry spirals, and learning to mindfully approach your thoughts rather than getting sucked into them and making judgments about the things that pop into your head, especially at nighttime. And then the third component I want you to know about is light therapy. And while that may sound kind of woo woo or even new age, it's actually potentially the most helpful for insomnia specifically, including postpartum insomnia, because it helps to reset. The point is to reset your circadian rhythm. And who doesn't need a little bit of circadian rhythm reset when they are in the midst of sleep deprivation, right? Like who couldn't benefit from that? But the specifics on what that light therapy can look like are within the article. But just something that I want you to know is essentially you would expose yourself to a very bright light. So it's not red light, it's very bright light. It's much brighter than what a red light would be. But you would expose yourself to that fairly close to your face for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, for I can't remember if it's like 5 or 6 weeks, essentially, is what you would do. Um, but somebody very helpfully posted a comment to this article when I was writing up the research review about these different options for postpartum insomnia treatment. And they said, couldn't you just get morning sun exposure? It's like, yeah, probably that would be equally or more effective, but I don't know of a research study about that specifically. So if you are able to get out early in the morning, right, like right after you wake up and go for a walk, that's lovely. I'm doing that now, but I'm also a year postpartum. Earlier on in postpartum, that was not necessarily going to be something that I was able to. I don't know. Well, before I say I couldn't do that, maybe I'll just say I didn't do that. I didn't prioritize that. It didn't occur to me at the time as something that was important to do. So that's something that I only started later on. I think in the last couple of months, maybe at like 9 months postpartum and on. So I won't say that that would have been impractical. I will just say that I did not do that. But if you don't want to do bright light therapy and spend the money on bright light therapy, maybe you could just do early sun exposure. I think that could be great too. And then the last thing I just wanted to propose to you, a couple of strategies that are specific to kind of the struggles of postpartum and the fact that if you're experiencing postpartum insomnia, especially mixed in with sleep deprivation, right? Like that's a tough thing. And I have just a few very, very not complicated, very simple suggestions for you because here's the truth. I think, as I know it, oftentimes what we need to help with insomnia uh, is often not that complicated, but it does require some consistency from us and maybe a little bit of strategic thinking. And so some of what I'm going to say to you right now might seem like, well, that's obvious, like obviously obvious, Annemarie. Tell me something I don't know. But sometimes when we're really struggling with sleep, the obvious things aren't always obvious to us. And that's why I'm bringing them up now. So I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I'm trying to offer a boost or a leg up like, hey, if you are struggling to put sentences together right now because you're having such a hard time sleeping, here are a couple of just gentle suggestions, hopefully to help you. If you are experiencing kind of days and nights mixed up as your baby does, especially earlier on in postpartum before they start to figure out like 3 and 4 hour stretches at a time, especially if you are somebody who needs a lot of sleep, I would just suggest to help your body recognize the difference between daytime and nighttime and get dressed in the morning, like get out of bed in the morning by whatever time. Maybe it's 7:30. But get out of bed and put some clothes on and shower. I don't mean a 20-minute shower, but just shower, get some water on your face and put some clothes on. I didn't say a 3-piece suit, but just some different clothes from whatever you went to bed in. You're helping your body to recognize, oh, something different is happening right now. And then, as I was just saying in relation to light therapy, if you can, before 10 a.m., just go sit outside for a minute. Just go sit outside for a minute. Walk to your mailbox if you want. Take a brief walk to the stop sign if there's one close to you, and back. But just get a little bit of sun on your face in the morning. And then when it's time to go to bed in the evening, or you would like to start winding down, just implement a short bedtime routine. Not 87 steps, not 15 different beauty products with all the washes and the rinses and the astringents and the creams and no, just a simple bedtime routine. And maybe that's I brush my teeth, I rub a lotion on. I've said in a past episode, the one about your soft, squishy, saggy postpartum belly. I rub a cream on my belly every night, not because I'm wishing away the stretch marks, but just as an act of honoring and acceptance, both honoring the work that my stomach and core have done to carry 5 babies now, and then also an act of acceptance that uh, the belly that did all of that is also not flat. It is also not flat. But maybe you have brushed your teeth and now you're just going to rub a lotion or a cream on yourself for a little bit. Or maybe you're going to do a couple of simple stretches, nothing complex, but just a couple stretches. Or maybe you want to drink a cup of tea. I mean, if that's going to make you get up and pee in the middle of the night, maybe don't do that. But if you are able to handle it, maybe just a cup of, what do they call it, sleepy time tea or like a chamomile tea, something to induce relaxation, or maybe read for like 5 minutes, just a page, just something. But implementing a bedtime routine also helps to separate you as a person from you, the caregiver of your child, right? You're doing so many things right now and you're learning so many things. Even under stress, you're learning so many things about how to care for and love this other person. But the short bedtime routine is not actually for them, it's for you. And one of the ways that we help our bodies and nervous systems to recognize that we're not in danger is by just approaching things with gentleness and not hurry. And then the last thing for nocturnal cognitive arousal is just a reminder, don't be on your phone or your laptop right before bed. And like you just heard me say a couple minutes ago, well, I use my Hinge Health app before bed for my stretching. Yes, but not to read news stories or to scroll through social media or what have you. Like I actually don't have social media on my phone at all. I have email, but I don't have social media. So if you find yourself kind of in a worry tornado, oftentimes at night, just ditch the phone, ditch the laptop, ditch the screens of whatever kind before bed. And if you can find something funny, like something consistently funny to just help you relax, like help you laugh and look at things a little bit less seriously, maybe work on that too. The last thing that I wanted to say is that I want everybody who experiences postpartum insomnia to go to see their healthcare practitioner. But I especially want you to go if you have a history of bipolar disorder in your past, because generally speaking, women who have that as part of their story have a much higher risk than women who don't for what's called postpartum psychosis, where you lose touch with reality. And I'm not saying that to like scare the crap out of you. I'm just saying it to say like, hey, if bipolar is part of your experience, I want you to take things very seriously. Hopefully your practitioner's already educated you on this a long, long time ago. But very definitely get help if you are having trouble sleeping, because sleep deprivation in particular and or insomnia can trigger episodes essentially for women who have had or have bipolar. So yeah, I think that was all that I wanted to cover, lady. I hope that's been helpful to you. I'll talk to you soon.